This is Sports Shorts Radio. It's the fastest 2 hours on the radio, covering it all from the Fighting Tigers of LSU to the tracks of NASCAR on 104.5, 104.9 ESPN Baton Rouge. Now, here's Ronnie RANTZ, Joel Davis, and Buzzy Heidel.
And welcome, everyone, to Sports Shorts. Ronnie RANTZ here with you on this Saturday morning, 10 to noon. Sports Shorts each and every Saturday right here on ESPN Radio in Baton Rouge. We're in the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, but we're presented by LeBaer's Casino here in Baton Rouge. And we got a special show for you today. A couple of former coaches that are going to be with us on Sports Shorts. The first hour, we'll visit with the guy to my left, Dan CANEVARI, a longtime assistant coach for the LSU baseball program, was a part of 5 national championship teams as a staff member with Skip Bertman, and of course went on to be head coach at Southeastern, a number of different places. And now Dan's back in the fold over at LSU working with Tiger Athletic Foundation. We'll talk to Dan in the first hour, and then John Brady will join us, the former Final Four coach for the LSU Tigers, and we'll talk some hoops. Not only we'll talk about Will Wade and what he's done in year one, we'll also break down the Final Four. That's hour number 2. But first, Dan, thanks, man, for joining us.
Oh, great to be here on a Saturday morning.
You think back to those LSU baseball days, and, of course, 5 national championships in 10 years. I know at the time when you're in the middle of it, you can appreciate it, but at the same time, when you take a step back, now you really have a true appreciation 20 years later.
Yeah, 20 years later, you look back, and it went by so fast, and it became the norm. You know, like every time you went out there, we're going to win the game. We're going to go to Omaha, and, it's going to work. But I'll never forget Skip's last year we went to Kentucky, and we're playing a ball game, and we get away on the Sunday getaway day. We take a shower, and we're sitting out there and having the sandwich and the Diet Coke, and we're sitting on buckets waiting for the team to finish. And Skip turns to me and goes, Cano, these are the good old days. And at that moment in time, I didn't really get the picture. But now I do. I mean, It was never going to get any better than it was right then and there.
Yeah. And the thing about it is that everybody says it, whether it's Tony Robichaux, for UL Lafayette, or Rick Jones back in the day when he was at Tulane, or any of the really in-state, Roger Cato, or any of the in-state coaches that spent a good while here in the state of Louisiana, they all give them credit for not only, what LSU's done, but just college baseball overall, particularly in the state of Louisiana.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what Skip Bertman brought to the table when he came to LSU from Miami in 1980, fall of 1983, helped everybody, not just the Tigers.
Well, and not just the state of Louisiana, but the SEC. I mean, you look at what Florida just unveiled their new stadium, South Carolina. Ray Tanner played, coached for Skip in the Olympics and was a disciple. And so you look at all that, but especially in the state, you look at Southeastern, McNeese State, Nichols State just did a renovation. They all got beautiful fields, and, of course, what ULL did. So, yeah, Skip changed it for the entire state. He brought the level of baseball up, and, of course, for high school baseball and travel baseball and all the private baseball that goes on, that just blossomed, after those glory years back in the 90s.
You were around when Coach Bertman, you were working in the LSU athletic department when Coach Bertman decided to replace Smoke LaValle, and he hired Paul Maneri. And what did you know? I know you're from the Miami area, and you knew of Paul and probably did some camps and things like that with Coach Maneri back in the day in Miami. But what was the thought process? Take me back when you're on the inside, when you guys decided to pick Coach Paul Maneri over some other options. I know Tim Corbin being one of them.
Well, we interviewed a couple of people. We interviewed John Pulowski, and we interviewed Tim Corbin. And Corbin was a good candidate. Of course, he got a better deal at Vanderbilt. But Paul was always in the background. The issue with Paul was that, trying to get out of his buyout at Notre Dame, I think he was ready to move. He wanted to take on the next challenge. But Paul worked for Skip and worked with me in the Ron Frazier sports camps back in the early to mid-'80s. And worked for Jim Hendry, who was the head coach at Columbus High School, and they were best friends. But Paul grew up, with Demi Maneri as his dad, and we played Demi the whole time. Back then you could play in the fall, so we played against Dade North a lot. And Paul was well known there. He went to St. Thomas and basically built the athletic program, which was a small private college in Miami, and then went on to the Air Force. And then, of course, went to Notre Dame. But what Skip, the thing that really intrigued Skip, and I think was the selling point for Paul, is he went to Omaha when teams from the North didn't go to Omaha. He won every year in his conference, was at the top of the conference every year, given all the same, advantages, I guess, or facilities and things that all the other people had in his conference. And that's one of the things Skip said about the coach. Is he at the top of his league, meaning everybody's at the same level? Is he always at the top? And that was a winner for Paul. Plus, Paul's got a great personality to fit in down here in Louisiana. He had a tie with his wife and him meeting here in Louisiana. So it all kind of all the candidates, it all kind of fit together. Of course, we talked to a lot of people. A lot of people got better deals at the schools they were at and got stadium improvements. And once again, Skip Bertman did a lot for college baseball when he interviewed for that job after Smoke, was let go.
Well, obviously a great hire for LSU. They got Coach Maneri, and here we are. He's going to end up retiring here. He'll coach as long as he wants. And, of course, they went on to win a national championship, and over the last, I think, 5-6 years, been the winningest regular season program in America. Coach Bertman has, he retired in 2001. He announced he was going to retire in 2000, and ahead of time. And did he leave too soon?
In my opinion, yeah, way too soon. But those 18 years that he had at LSU were tough years.
Right. I mean, had to build it from the ground up.
Had to build it from the ground up. Had to change the thought process of not only the fans and everything. Expectations rose. But, the people on campus and getting people to buy into what he was trying to do. And it was quite a battle for him to get it going. And once he got it going, I think really the health issues, and people don't realize, he had the bad hips, and now, he's got bad knee now, but the travel gets you. And, the grind of day in and day.
He always hated the travel, right?
Yeah, it's tough to get on a bus and go 6 hours. It's tough to travel every other weekend, and that's just hard to keep up. But I think, in retrospect, he left a little early. The era was different. The way things were done was different then. Not as many people. I think one of the things he felt is, can I keep this level of excellence up? Because the coaches are getting better.
Right.
The schools are putting more money into stadiums and into their baseball because Skip showed them you can make money at baseball. And so it was picking up, especially in the SEC. So I think that was part of the factor. Plus, he was going to be an assistant athletic director, and he was going to do speeches, which he's very good at, and take that on as like a second career, a new challenge for him. And then the AD job came up, which he never expected at the time he decided to retire.
Right. And it's one of those things where we'll never know. It was a different era, as you mentioned, no charter flights like there are now. And oh, by the way, I'll ask you this. If Coach Bertman hadn't retired in 2001 or announced in 2000 and then officially stepped away in June of 2001, LSU baseball might not get the new Alec Box Stadium as quickly as it did.
Quickly as it did. Yeah, I think that was a real factor there. But, when you're talking about, the biggest difference, I think the biggest difference for him would be tougher is the roster restriction and the scholarship restriction, because the way we did it back in those days.
Redshirted a few guys.
We used to have a lot of guys redshirt. Guys would come, hey, give them a chance 2-3 years later. They're 21, 22 years old, playing against 18, 19-year-olds. And with the tops coming in and with the ability to have tops and bundle it with books and get more players in-state on scholarship, I think those restrictions would have changed the way, we did business, so to speak.
How many, last question on the Coach, Bertman deal, how much longer you think? You left 10 years on the table, you think? I mean, from a standpoint of, he stepped away in 2001, could have probably coached another 8, 9, 10 more years, realistically?
Well, and I'm not taking anything away, the way the baseball's evolved, and he had a big part of it. But without having to raise money to fix the stadium, without having to take, like we used to say, the punishment flights back on Sunday night, where you come back from Atlanta, you change in Atlanta, you get off at B37 and have to go to A14, and you got to walk and your luggage and everything. I mean, the fact that the way it's set up now, due to the SEC network and the profit sharing and the success of the SEC and generous budget by LSU, I think he could have gone 10 more years given that situation. I think it would have been tougher to recruit and get the stable of players that he had at that point in time, but I still think he'd be competitive. probably in the same mode as Paul is right now. It just would be hard to win all those championships.
Right.
I mean, Paul's got a tremendous stumbling block. The whole format's different. The stadium's different. Back in the Gorilla Ball era, we could smash them out. And now, you get out there and it depends on if the ball lands right. It's hard to hit homers. It's just a whole different ball of wax. But I still think he would have had us at the top of the SEC, just like Paul's doing. Mm-hmm. And I think the program be in the same shape.
The 5 national championships you were a part of as an assistant coach at LSU was a different format in the sense that when you got to the finals, it was winner take all. I mean, it wasn't the 2 out of 3 that
even
there
more
is
than
now.
that. You got to remember the first 2, 3, there was no super regional.
That's true. Yeah. Well, no, the first 4. The only one was the 2000.
Right.
Yeah.
2000. Yeah, was the only one. So there was like no super regional. So you got to the regional. You hosted it. Not a lot of people hosted it then. We had the nation's biggest attendance. We won 40 games and had a decent showing in the SEC tournament. We'd get the regional.
Right.
Well, you played 9 times out of 10. We go to the SEC tournament knowing we were going to host a regional. That was a big advantage for us. Mm-hmm. The heat, the fans, and everything made it very difficult. They'd send some teams down. But if you won that regional, you'd go to Omaha. There's only 8 regionals. And so I think that was different. 2000 was tougher. But also the fact that you just played one game, winner take all. So if you could play well on that, you get to the championship and then play well that day, it really was a big deal.
And that's really been understated. People think, well, that's easier, but at the same time, when LSU's won its 5 national championships on that CBS noon, winner take all type time slot. In '91, we were the underdog. They had a first round pick, Tyler Green, pitcher, 15th overall. '93. We had a freshman. They had, Dreifert and Bluma, whatever. Yeah. I mean, in 96, I don't remember what,
96 we played
Miami.
J.D. Arteaga, the all-time wins leader in Miami, and now the pitching coach.
There you go. Now, 97, LSU was in good shape. You had Coogan and Thompson. You're 1 and 2 going. You had the advantage there, but in 2000, Stanford had their number one draft picks. So LSU was really the underdog from a pitching matchup 4 out of the 5 times they won it.
Yeah, and when we played Stanford, but in 2000 we went through the regional, the College World Series. I think we figured out at that point in time we went through $15 million worth of signing bonus to get to the championship and win it. Yeah, you had 5 first-round draft picks we faced.
Right.
Yeah, Blair Barnes at Florida State. We had the guy from Texas. I can't remember the guy's name. He was a first-round draft pick. And so it was difficult. It was very, very difficult. But that was Skip's magic is for one game, there was nobody better to get you ready. For one game, winner take all. He was undefeated in NCAA championship play.
Everybody talks about the greatness of Coach Bertman, and they narrow it down to motivation. He did so many things well. He was probably arguably the greatest pitching coach in the history of college baseball, and that kind of gets lost in the shuffle because people think of LSU baseball as just a snapshot gorilla ball. They had a bunch of big guys and they hit home runs. That was about a 3-year window. The rest of the time, they pitched it pretty well.
Remember, the other people had big guys too, and they had the same bats. So it was like you kind of had to offset it. We used to say an SEC shutout was 5 runs or less, back then.
But you were around them so much, and we'll get to this year's team and Coach Maneri here next next segment. But from a motivational standpoint, when somebody asks you what made Coach Bertman so great motivationally, what do you say?
When they ask me what made him great, a lot of people ask that, what made him great? Everything made him great. The fact that he could do so many different things and all that, like he used to say, all those things added together gives you an advantage. But motivation, he just had a great gift of figuring out what made you tick and then popping that string or pushing that button or however you want to describe it at the exact right time when you were ready to kill him. You're ready to just say, I've had enough of this Bertman guy.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he just hit you with the right thing, and then you were good for another 2-3 weeks.
Well, what's funny is that now Coach Bertman is turning 80 years old on May 23rd, and when you sit around and you tell the stories.
So that because that's your birthday.
Right, exactly. Same day, exactly.
That's right.
I'll always remember it. But, when he sits around and he hears some of those stories where quite honestly, he was an SOB.
Yeah.
He goes, come on, it's RANTZ. I mean, he's just making that up.
Yeah, you guys are making this stuff up. No,
he thinks of himself as this lovable old grandfatherly type now. He wasn't always the case. Dan CANEVARI joining us, the former assistant coach of 5 national championship teams at LSU, and of course won a title over at Miami as a member of that ball club. We'll take a break. When we come back right after this timeout, we'll talk about the 2018 LSU Tigers. Haven't quite hit their stride yet, as they're now 17-11 as they head into the third game of the series against against Texas A&M. That's next week. Getting ahead of us against Mississippi State. We'll be back with more Sports Shorts right here from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio right after this.
At Peak Performance Physical Therapy, we treat the athlete in everyone, from the Grand Slam hitter to grandparents. If your doctor prescribes physical therapy, ask for Peak Performance by name, getting you back in the game of life.
Does the new year mean new windows, hardy plank, or vinyl siding? Then you need to call Relief Windows for award-winning customer service and years of experience. Looking for quality replacement windows with lifetime warranties? Trust Relief Windows. Call us or come walk through our showroom and get a free consultation with one of our many window experts. Relief Windows is a proud partner of LSU Athletics. Come see us today or call 288-8138. 288-8138.
Attention to detail makes the world go round. At Baker Printing, our approach to the printing business is very simple. Treat it as if it were your own. That's not always an easy job, but it comes from the top down in our company. We thrive on the unique jobs. Bottom line, we take care of our customers' projects as if they were our very own. At Baker Printing, attention to detail makes our world go round.
Introducing the Mercedes-Benz family of vans, including the full-size Sprinter and the mid-size Metris. If these are your wingtips, if this is your gourmet latte, then these are your vans. Vans for professionals. Strictly professionals. Best commercial van residual value according to ALG, and starting at just $25,995. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to...
At Peak Performance Physical Therapy, we treat the athlete in everyone, from the blue chip athlete to blue collar worker. If your doctor prescribes physical therapy, ask for Peak Performance by name, getting you back in the game.
Sports Shorts Radio with Ronnie Rantz, Joel Davis, and Buzzy Heidel on 104.5, 104.9 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Welcome back, everybody. Here in the LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino presents Sports Shorts each and every Saturday morning, 10 to noon, and, of course, a replay on television in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette on Pelican Broadcasting HD channel 1013 on Cox Cable in those markets. Joining me is Dan CANEVARI, longtime assistant coach, now working with the Tiger Athletic Foundation fundraising. And I know there's a big project that's going on right now with LSU baseball. Looks like it's going to be even more improvements to the best facility in the country.
It is. It's a great facility, and especially for the fans. I mean, you can't beat it for the fans, and a lot of people, take a lot of pride in Alex Box Stadium, Skip Urban Field. One of the things that people don't realize is that you also have to practice at that facility. Football has their own practice facility, basketball, volleyball, but baseball, you got to practice on your field. And so the improvements that we're making and that Paul has asked for, I think, are good for recruiting, and are also good for, for the ability to practice better. The big addition is we're going to take the batting cages there presently, improve that batting cage, and then add on towards center field. We're going to add on with a weight room basically almost a replica of the football weight room, but for 35 people.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing there is people say, well, we got a lot of weight rooms on campus. Yeah, but the one thing is baseball uses the football weight room. And as you know, even when you played, you even made it once in a while at 6 o'clock in the morning when you got to lift weights before the football team because they got to be in there, and that's the right thing. It's difficult when you're lifting on Thursday. You played Wednesday night. You went extra innings against UL Monroe. And next thing you know, you got to get up at 6 and lift weights and then go to class and then go to practice or hop on a bus. So it gets very difficult. I think, Paul, it's a good thing for Paul and the team because they can lift in between classes. They can lift a pitcher, like, for example, pitcher throws. He can't lift on Thursday every time because he might be pitching on Friday. So this allows them the flexibility to kind of tailor the weight training to the player, to his schedule, work in smaller groups, work the whole team out when you need to, and it's right there. And I think that's a big advantage. One of the things that's difficult for players now is proper rest to try to get them to get their rest. So that 6 o'clock wake-up call, unless you're in trouble, is nice to get rid of.
Well, I mean, it's proper rest is important if you stay out of the Tiger Bar in Tigerland. That was always a problem for me and some of my teammates back in the day. But Coach Maneri does a better job of that.
He does a better job recruiting. He doesn't recruit you guys anymore.
Exactly.
But
Ronnie Rantz and Chad Cooley wouldn't have ended up on the Paul Maneri roster.
I think part of the reason you lifted at 6 in the morning was to make sure instead of checking the curfew, it's better to make you wake up early and see what you did last night in the weight room.
One of my favorite stories in 1993. They were 3 freshmen that lived together by the name of Tim Lanier, Brian Doherty, and Kevin Ainsworth. And the three of them, the Catholic High Connection, and they lived across the street from me on Burbank, and Smoke Lavelle. That year, I mean, back then, the players, and for a long time, players would put the tarp on, put the tarp off, and it was it wasn't very uncommon to get to be told the day before, hey guys, we got a 6 a.m. tarp pull or 6:30, 7 o'clock a.m. tarp pull before you go to class.
Right.
So all the team comes, helps put the tarp on or off the field, because it takes an army to do so, and then you go to class, and then later at lunchtime or something, you come back.
Especially when there's water on that tarp, it takes an army.
Yeah, exactly. The old tarp was about 3 inches thick, I think. So anyway, one day we didn't have a tarp pull, but I called up and I left a voicemail on their phone. It was the old answering machine back in the day with the landline to your apartment.
So you did it in your Smoke Lavelle impersonation?
Hey, this is Smoke here. Listen, I need you guys to show up at the box. It's 6:30. We got a little tarp pull. All right, rock and roll. See you later.
Out.
And just win, baby. And so anyway, they literally bought it because it was a scratchy voicemail, whatever. I think my Smoke was a little better back then. I was around them all the time, and they were and so about 2 hours later, it wasn't uncommon for me to just knock on the door and say, hey, what's going on? So I did. I just went over there just to see, did they buy it? One guy was in bed, another guy was about to go to bed, and a third guy was just angry, that they had to get up in the morning. And I still didn't tell them until like about 6:30 in the morning when they were about to walk out the door. I called and said, hey, don't worry about it. We're good. So anyway.
So you didn't win the most popular teammate award at that moment in time. Yeah.
Love those guys. They were all great players, but that was classic moment, and just another sign of the apocalypse, how things have changed.
Yeah, the freshmen, you had to take care of the freshmen, though. You had to break them in.
Exactly. 2018 LSU baseball team currently ranked number 21 in the country, 17-11. They're 4-4 in the SEC as we do this show here as they head into the third game of the series. Obviously, this LSU baseball team this year has a lot of question marks right now because of partly due to the injury bug. I mean, your middle infield that you thought so highly of before the season is not there. No Josh Smith, no Brant Broussard, and the surprise, I guess, has been a couple of freshman pitchers, and they've started to figure the pitching thing out, which had a lot of question marks. But offensively, where you thought you knew what you had, they don't quite know what they have right now.
Yeah, people don't understand a lot of times. We're so used to being at the top of the heap every year, right? And going into this year, like you said, it was a big challenge for Paul and Alan Dunn because you really had no weekend starters coming back. Caleb Gilbert had shown well.
Yeah.
The injury. Remember, the injury bug started the next to last game of the season in Omaha with Walker, and so people don't realize how hard it is to get a Friday night guy, a Saturday guy, and then a Sunday guy that gives you a chance in the 6th, 7th inning. And no matter how good they are, how hard they throw, until they step on that mound and they do it, you don't know if they really can get it done. It's very difficult for young men to do that in front of 10,000 people with the competition that they face. So that was a question mark. And like you said, they felt they had the position players back that could carry it for a little while. You had a few question marks, especially at catcher. And that was probably the biggest question mark. The strength was in the outfield, which they still have strength in the outfield. But like you said, that middle infield, that's so important to the pitching because the defense helps your pitching when it's not at the level it should be. So having those players, and then, of course, like we talked about off the air, you're losing 100 points in a batting average when you get these guys hurt. But I tell you what, I compare them a lot. I've talked to some people. You go to the stadium and people, hey, what's going on? I think you got to compare them to the Texas A&M basketball team.
Right.
They
can beat anybody, lose anybody.
But they were beginning of the year. They were top ranked. They had a lot of people, and then all of a sudden they get in basketball. You get 3 guys down, you lose half your team. And now they were average team. We beat them when they were down, and then they got everybody back. And then all of a sudden they made a run at the end, made the NC2A, and made a run in the tournament. I think Paul's team is very, very similar to that. When he hasn't played with a full team yet,
right?
And that's he would never play with Walker. We knew that going into the season. But just the guys he had, he's never had them all together. And the other thing, too, the people don't understand, and you know this, guy gets hurt, especially a hitter, he comes back, and they say, he'll be back in 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah, but it takes him 2 weeks to get ready to play again at the level that he left because he lost that practice time.
It's, with this, obviously we're on in Lafayette as well, and the Raging Cajuns, a program that I do a number of games of and follow closely, have a ton of respect for Tony Robichaux. In some ways and in different ways, the seasons are kind of similar in that, the LSU can pitch it, even though their team ERA going into last night was over 4. It's you're only halfway through your season. They're now 28 games into the season. It's halfway through. A lot of those numbers are inflated from that first week or so when they had some really bad starts. Right. But if you look at their numbers over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they've figured it out.
They've narrowed down the pitching. They're pitching the guys. They've filled out roles.
It's similar, like the Raging Cajuns, the same way. They can field it. They can pitch it. Right now, the offense is the problem. Has been for them. So it is for LSU. Now that they're getting into the SEC, you see those numbers really coming down. I mean, they got guys in their lineup hitting between 200 and 250, and more than one. And that's just not LSU baseball that we've grown accustomed to be, to have those struggles offensively. And you mentioned it, with no Josh Smith and no Brant Broussard, those are guys that are going to hit over 300.
Yeah, Broussard was your leading hitter when he went down.
I mean, they're going to hit over 300. They're being replaced with Hal Hughes, who's under 250, Jake Slaughter, who's under 250. I mean, that's a big deal regardless of home runs. And, oh, by the way, defense. I mean, you're playing, Bain at second base, who's doing an admirable job. But, I mean, he's a pitcher doing the best he can.
He wasn't recruited to be the starting second baseman in the SEC.
Absolutely.
And nothing against the kid. He's done a great job. He's a universal widget. The guy can go anywhere and play because he's a baseball player, but that's not really what you're looking for.
I mean, in theory, if you want to, be the optimist, you say, hey, LSU's 500 in the league and 17-11 overall with a pitcher playing second base. That's and a freshman
and batting in the 4-hole
and hitting in the 4-hole.
He hadn't had a bat in his hands in 3 years except a fungo bat.
So jealous. I got to be honest with you.
Every pitcher that ever played here is so jealous.
What's funny is that Doug Thompson and I, Doug, of course, who does the radio and was a great pitcher in 97, 98, we were coming back from maybe UNO or I don't know, it was some game earlier in the season, and we're talking on the phone and driving back, and Doug's like, man, I think I could have hit better than Bain. If I'd have given a chance.
But the folks out there that didn't play on a college team or whatever, the pitchers don't hit. 99.9% of pitchers don't hit. It's too tough to learn their pitch. Well, on every team that I've ever coached in 35 years, the pitchers always think they can hit,
right?
And the hitters always think they can pitch,
right?
That's common thread.
Coach, I got to tell you though, I mean, the White Sox did call me the day of the draft out of high school and ask if I would go as a first baseman, and I hit 13 homers in the All-Star game. So, I mean, I do have some skins in the wall to prove that I was a pretty.
Do you regret that decision to go for a pitcher?
Who burnt me? Who burnt me on the deal was Randy Davis.
Hey, man, what do you do?
Randy and John O'Donohue came to watch me pitch my senior year at Menard High at Oakdale in the middle of nowhere. And I had just gotten some contact lenses a few weeks earlier and was going through that phase where some days you can put them in and some days you can't.
Oh, okay.
And this particular day I had trouble putting them in. And so I pitched well and did well, but they had just a good enough pitcher on the mound and went junior college to make me look foolish. And I went like 1 for 3 with a punch out and a pop up, and it just didn't look good swinging it. So Randy Davis comes back with a scouting report to Coach Bertman and says, yeah, he's good, man, on the pitching, but I don't know about the hitting. So when I go on my visit, Skip goes, ooh, listen, we got you down as a pitcher, but not really a hitter, see. And of course you're too intimidated as a 17-year-old kid to go,
the scholarship you want to sign.
Well, Coach, I don't know about that. Instead you're like, oh, okay. And then you get here and, God dog it. Anyway, I'm not bitter or anything.
People don't realize when you go to that meeting for Skip for your scholarship.
Yeah.
It's like going to your grandfather and asking for like a
right
allowance.
Right.
Like you're asking for money to buy a car.
Well, that's the thing people don't realize is that baseball recruiting is a business transaction. We'll talk about that when we come back, because people don't realize it's not football or basketball where you get a scholarship or you don't.
It's all
a business negotiation,
all
and he was the best at it. Dan CANEVARI joining us. We got John Brady going to be here in hour number 2. We'll talk some LSU basketball, Final Four breakdown, Pelicans, and a whole lot more. The Final Four coach John Brady will be here hour number 2. First hour, all college baseball. We'll be back with more right after this.
At Peak Performance Physical Therapy, we treat the athlete in everyone, from the three-point shooter to the three-piece suit. If your doctor prescribes physical therapy, ask for Peak Performance by name, getting you back in the game of life.
Attention to detail makes the world go round. At Baker Printing, our approach to the printing business is very simple. Treat it as if it were your own. That's not always an easy job, but it comes from the top down in our company. We thrive on the unique jobs. Bottom line, we take care of our customers' projects as if they were our very own. At Baker Printing, attention to detail makes our world go round.
Introducing the Mercedes-Benz family of vans, including the full-size Sprinter and the mid-size Metris. If these are your wingtips, if this is your gourmet latte, then these are your vans. Vans for professionals. Strictly professionals. Best commercial van residual value according to ALG, and starting at just $25,995. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to
Relief Window Experience. Relief Window.
When my wife and I started Relief Windows, what we were trying to do, what our goal was to give a quality job to a homeowner. Everybody's scared of contractors. We wanted to change the mold of what that is. Not showing up on time, not answering the phone, somebody running with your money. The reason why you should pick Relief Windows to do your renovation of your home, windows, doors, hardy plank, siding, is because of the experience, quality service of our company. Service is everything we have. It's the foundation of our company. We're going to show up on time. We're going to do the job right. Over 60% of our customers is customer referral. We're a local company here in Baton Rouge, built in Baton Rouge, staying in Baton Rouge. Okay. The job's not done until you're happy and we're happy. It's built the old-fashioned way, with a handshake. Here at Relief Windows, it's an honor to be official window, door, and siding company of LSU Athletics, from one winning team to another.
Sports Shorts Radio with Ronnie Rantz, Joel Davis, and Buzzy Heidel on 104.5, 104.9 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Welcome back, everybody, to Sports Shorts. Ronnie Rantz, Dan CANEVARI with us. Dan CANEVARI, of course, originally from Miami. Where'd you go to high school in Miami?
I didn't go to Miami.
Oh, you're a New York guy.
I'm a New York guy.
Yeah.
Went down to Miami to play ball and walked on down to Miami. Like Skip said, I was more of a limp on than a walk on. But no, went down there and played, and I ended up staying there after graduation. Coach did some things until I moved here to Baton Rouge.
Yeah, Dan was on the 83 staff that won a national. It was 82. 1982 staff as a graduate assistant when they won the national championship.
And one of the greatest plays in the College World Series
the Phantom pickoff.
The Grand Illusion is what they call it.
The Grand Illusion. I tell you what, this next break, I'm gonna look on. I'm gonna find that on YouTube. If we could look that up, I'm gonna try. I'll try to find it there on the surface. It's called the Grand Illusion play.
The Grand Illusion,
and it's the greatest play in the history of college baseball.
Right, and Skip actually did the practice. I mean, we practiced it while they did the headshots at Rosenblatt. The ESPN did the headshots, and you have to go in a room back then and take the headshot. And Skip did it as kind of a loosening up for the team. Hey, this is a great pickoff. Dave Scott was assistant, saw it at a junior college tournament. Skip goes, okay, we'll practice it. And to his credit, Coach Frazier said to Skip, if you think we can use it in a game, let's do it. And they talked it over, and they did it, and it changed the whole World Series. It was an amazing play.
Coach Bertman learned a lot, from a lot of different people, but obviously Ron Frazier – he learned a ton, not only doing his camps, but the business side and promotion of college baseball, which he implemented to perfection when he came to Baton Rouge. You got to think about college baseball in Baton Rouge prior to 1984. There were 100 people in the stands if you were lucky. Right. What was it about Ron Frazier? You played for him and coached for him.
Coach Frazier was probably the most influential guy in college baseball. He changed college baseball forever because Coach used to tell me, he goes, Dan, I'd win 50, 60 games because I'd do a lot of things, and the team was good, and I'd go into the AD, and I'd get my budget cut. And he goes, but I won. And the coach AD says, I know, but we need the money for football. And he said, finally, I figured out that if I could make money, then I would get the money back, and they would do things for my program. And so he basically, when he hired Skip, he said to Skip, you're going to coach the team. I just want to coach third base, run the offense, you run the pitching. Skip decided who pitched. He made the pitching changes, but Frazier would go out to the mound. But Skip ran the team, and then Ron went full-time basically into minor league baseball down in Miami. And now that's a tough ticket because you had a lot of competition. Now, back when Frazier really made it work, we didn't have the pro team then. There was no pro team. There was a single-A team, the Miami Marlins, back then. But city of Miami has a lot of things to do in the spring and in late May. The weather's beautiful. And Frazier just went out, and he was just a promotional genius. He hired a guy full-time. Skip ran the program. I was lucky enough to be kind of between the two. But Skip learned a lot of things about promotions, dealing with people, how to make money in the program. Now, he had done that at Beach High as a high school coach. He promoted. They had large crowds at Flamingo Park when Skip was doing that, and was a great and well-known high school coach. So that combination was so beautiful for me as a 24-year-old graduate assistant to watch the two of them, where Skip was a baseball genius and Frazier was a promotional genius, and two first-ballot Hall of Famers. I mean, what a way to grow up.
Mm-hmm.
And but Frazier was just a very confident, innovative guy that just had a lot of confidence in his ability to make things happen. Great negotiator. He got college baseball on TV with ESPN. First game I ever coached in my life in college was on ESPN. It was the first game ever, first 3-game series ever televised on ESPN. We were playing USC, and Frazier negotiated the whole deal. It was unbelievable. Nobody had ever done that before.
Well, we're going to take a look at this play. This is the Grand Illusion play. You were an assistant coach at the University of...
There it is. Steve Lusby at first. Now, Kasperzak stepped back, and Lusby did a great job of swearing and saying the ball got by him. But what happened was we had guys in the bullpen. The bullpen scattered, and the bat girls picked up chairs like they ran like the ball was there, and the bench came out and pointed. You'll see this again from the side view from like second base. And Gene Stevenson, of course, doesn't know what's going on. Nobody knew. What people have to understand, that was his brother at first base. was the leading base
Go
dealer.
back if you can. Pull up the surface that I have. I want to put up the surface on the screen. I want to stop it before we want to paint the picture real quick. Miami's playing Wichita State in 1982. What's the score of the game? Do you remember?
It's a real close. I don't remember
Close
exact
ball
score,
game.
but here's the big stat: 86 out of 90 attempts.
That Phil Stevenson is at first base. He's Gene Stevenson's brother. Gene Stevens is the head coach of Wichita State, Hall of Fame coach. Wichita went there forever. LSU beat Wichita in 91 and 93 to win the College World Series. He was the coach. In 82, his Shockers are playing Miami in the College World Series. His brother has 86 stolen bases and 90 attempts in one season. I mean that's unbelievable. Okay,
Right.
I mean that is unbelievable. Right?
Now-
LSU's probably never had anybody steal more than 40 or 50.
Right,
in a
it's
season.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
But anyway, here's the thing that was great about it. When we practiced this play, and Skip was talking to Frazier about it, he said, Skip would say, "Hey, this play's got some merit." But the situation has to be right. One has to be the night game where the sun's right below going to the third base
The
dugout
sun's got to be in the eyes a little bit for the
first baseman and the runner. Okay, we have to be in the first base dugout so we can make the noise and scatter and do all the things.
Yeah.
You have to have a guy that dives back head first. Okay. The other thing you have to have is what Wichita State did. They had a pitcher who pitched the day before coach first. So you didn't have a coach.
Right. They
You
didn't
had
have the staff back then.
Right, they didn't have the staff.
So he's kind of sleeping over there. Not
So
paying
we had
attention.
all those things, and then the other thing is Kasperzak was on the mound. Every time he threw the first before he did the phantom,
It was a
pivot,
wild throw.
no, he had to step behind the rubber.
Huh.
Because if you just break contact and gain
Right.
ground, it's a
Right.
balk.
Right.
Because you can't fake a throw to
Right.
first. If you step behind, you become a fielder, and now you can fake a throw.
Right.
Now
so
the
that
la-
was his normal pickoff. Yeah.
Well, no, it wasn't,
he
but
had
it
to-
was
he had to
that
do it.
game.
Right. He had to do it that time.
And if
Sell it to set it up.
If you watch the broadcast of the game, the announcers are saying he's never going to pick anybody off of that move,
Right.
because he was
Right.
stepping behind.
Right.
The last thing is Billy Rona, our shortstop, who is a great, as you say, HWA guy, how to win awareness. Skip made a point. Rona had to tell the umpire, "Hey, stay with me," because the second base
Right.
umpire, if he's watching
Right.
the ball and you make the play, he might not make
Right.
the call.
Right.
So Billy went up to him and whispered in his ear, "Stay with me. We got something coming." And that's how the whole play
All right,
worked.
so we go back to our surface shot here. I'm a press play. It's Phil Stevenson at first base, Wichita State, 86 stolen bases and 90 attempts. What's going to happen is the Miami pitcher is going to step off the rubber and act like he's picking off the first,
And
but he
Lusby's
keeps the
gonna-
ball in his glove. He never
right.
throws
and
it.
Lusby's going to dive, and then he does this thing and see the bullpen scatters.
Yeah, everybody's
Back-
acting like they had the ball, and instead, when the runner goes to second, he throws it to the shortstop who tags him along the way.
Right.
And
when they
picks him
show
off. They'll
if
show
they
the replay here in a
if
minute.
they show the shot from second base looking in our dugout,
Yeah.
you can see everybody's on the top step, and we all point.
And Gene's pointing to the first base coach at the time, who's a player, saying, "What are you doing? Where's your head? Use your head."
And he can't yell at his brother.
Right.
Oh my God, he doesn't know. And everybody's trying to say it's a balk, but it's not a balk.
No, it's just a fake play, and it goes down. They'll show the replay here in a minute. If you're watching us, check us out on the
Here it
on
is.
the
I see the
here you-
dugout. Now watch this.
He fakes as if the ball, and the whole dugout's yelling, "Ball, ball, ball," and they're
And
pointing
there's
down the
Rona,
line.
and then he just
And then
turns.
Roenick just catches it from the pitcher, who tags him out, and Stevenson is in shock as he gets tagged out at second base.
But here's the after effect of there's Kasperzak, and there's more plays there. But anyway, the real effect, and Skip would tell this story a lot. We played Maine the next game. We won that game.
Mm-hmm.
But like there was a silence over the crowd that like everybody's like, and then there was a buzz like, what happened? And,
Right.
there wasn't a lot of replay. There was no TVs in the stands or anything like that. But the next day we play Maine, and we had a freshman, Rob Sousa, on the mound. Sousa turns to throw to second base. He threw it into center field, and the runner didn't
Didn't
go.
go because they thought it was a trick.
He said he thought it was the rosin bag. And so nobody tried to steal bases the rest of the series. I guess it was amazing.
That was 1982. It was actually a play featured a couple years ago, by ESPN at the World Series and discussed and broken down.
That's the mastermind, Skip and Ron together. Ron, as the head coach,
Let
saying,
him do
Skip,
it, yeah.
if you think the situation's right, you call it. I got your back. And Skip having the courage, and it all worked out to do it is great.
Two of them that would be on Mount Rushmore. You'd have Skip Burtman, Augie Garrido, Ron Frazier, and Rod Dato. That'd be your Mount Rushmore, right?
I think you
In
got to go
college
with that
baseball.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. He's Dan Canevari and Ronnie Rantz. We're here in the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio presented by LaBear's Casino. We'll take a break. We'll be back Final segment with Dan CANEVARI. We'll talk some LSU baseball. We'll tell you a little bit about recruiting. And then John Brady will join us hour number 2 to talk hoops. We'll be back right after this.
At Peak Performance Physical Therapy, we treat the athlete in everyone, from the Grand Slam hitter to grandparents. If your doctor prescribes physical therapy, ask for Peak Performance by name, getting you back in the game of life.
Does the new year mean new windows, hardy plank, or vinyl siding? Then you need to call Relief Windows for award-winning customer service and years of experience. Looking for quality replacement windows with lifetime warranties? Trust Relief Windows. Call us or come walk through our showroom and get a free consultation with one of our many window experts. Relief Windows is a proud partner of LSU Athletics. Come see us today or call 288-8138. 288-8138.
Introducing the Mercedes-Benz family of vans, including the full-size Sprinter and the mid-size Metris. If these are your wingtips, if this is your gourmet latte, then these are your vans. Vans for professionals. Strictly professionals. Best commercial van residual value according to ALG, and starting at just $25,995. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to...
Attention to detail makes the world go round. At Baker Printing, our approach to the printing business is very simple. Treat it as if it were your own. That's not always an easy job, but it comes from the top down in our company. We thrive on the unique jobs. Bottom line, we take care of our customers' projects as if they were our very own. At Baker Printing, attention to detail makes our world go round.
At Peak Performance Physical Therapy, we treat the athlete in everyone, from the blue chip athlete to blue collar worker. If your doctor prescribes physical therapy, ask for Peak Performance by name.
Sports Shorts Radio with Ronnie Rantz, Joel Davis, and Buzzy Heidel on 104.5, 104.9 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Welcome back, everybody. Final segment with Dan CANEVARI, former LSU baseball assistant coach and part of 5 national championships at LSU, 1 national championship at the University of Miami as an assistant coach. And, you know, you made a great point off air. You were part of 2 of the greatest moments in college World Series history up in Omaha.
Very small part.
Yeah, that's still. You were there. You were there. Had a great seat.
Yeah,
had a great seat. I mean, you
got to high five and do all the stuff.
The Phantom pickoff, which we just talked about last segment in 1982. Miami picking off Wichita State without throwing the ball to first, and that's been shown and repeated on Little League fields across America ever since. But also the Warren Morris home run in 1996. You know, that obviously that's been highlighted and documented with the SEC stories and all that kind of thing. But what's the Dan CANEVARI personal piece to that? Where were you when he hit it? What were your thoughts right before he hit it and after?
Well, it was a very touching moment for me. My father passed away the Wednesday before that game. And so I had flown back to New York to go to the wake, and I spoke to him on the phone. Last words he said to me is, hey, make sure you win that game.
Oh, wow. And
so I went back, and my sisters all didn't understand why I was missing the funeral to go play the national championship game.
Right.
And when I came back, all the players had a black wristband on. Nothing said to ESPN. It was a team thing, which, as you know, we had a lot of team stuff that just stayed in house. Very touching for me, and the fact that Warren hit the homer on that day, it'll that locks my dad's memory in for me for a lifetime. But we're there, and when Tim Lanier struck out, and he says, "Warren picked me up." Warren said in his SEC Storied feature, he never thought we were going to lose. We always figured there was something was going to happen, and the way that game went back and forth, it was like a heavyweight fight. But I remember Warren hits it, and Skip does the big hand and grabs him. I'm standing next to Skip. He guys went, "Wait a minute," and it looked like it was going to be a double.
Right,
that's a double. That's going to fall. Like it's going to fall. It's going to fall. And he hits a homer, and Skip just turns and goes, "Oh my God!" Like he hit a homer on a day where no one hits a homer.
Right.
That win was, Pat Burrell's still flapping his wings, when he hit a grand slam that ended up in Mike Kerner's glove. So that was the home run was never even a thought. We just wanted to tie the game and try to keep going and plug away, and to have that homer in the only spot it could be hit. That's the memory. And then sitting in the dugout after the game, and I got to say the flow of emotions for me, I sat in the third base dugout for about half an hour and just let all the emotions go out, because in that 48 to 72 hour span, I think I had every emotion you could have. And remember, that's my alma mater we beat.
Right.
So there's also that emotion in there.
Your family emotion, your alma mater emotion, the shock of winning it, the end of the season,
hitting a homer,
right?
Being there with Skip, his alma mater, where he coached and played,
right?
And so it was just a big moment. My small thing is I won the coin toss to be the home team.
There you go.
See, I have a small.
Was it tails or head?
It was heads. You always know heads.
Oh, you always went head. I was a tails never fails kind of guy. Dan CANEVARI joining us here on Sports Shorts. We'll have John Brady, hour number 2. There's something special coming up in May. I know a couple years back there was the field dedication for Coach Skip Bertman and all that. But now coming up this May is the 35-year reunion, or a 25-year reunion. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, of the 1993 National Championship deal. But now it's not just about the 93 team. This is a reunion of all players that have ever played at LSU baseball, and it's honoring Coach Bertman and his 80th birthday also that month.
Right. We've got a whole bunch of festivities planned. Kristen Kane's done a great job. Hannah Pope with TAF, and they're putting it all together. And it's tough to get all that together, but we're going to honor the 93 team on the Friday night game. And then the Saturday, we're going to honor everybody that ever played for Skip. And we're calling it Legacy Weekend. And I think that's an appropriate title for that. Thursday, Skip's going to have a birthday party that all the alumni are invited. It's an invite only. But then Friday night, we're honoring the 93 team. Saturday, honor Skip. We're going to dedicate a plaza that's going to be built. And we'll talk about that at a later time, but that's in the works too. So it's just going to be a great time and a great honor to Skip here and LSU baseball, of course.
It's very touching, and I think it got a lot of people's attention when a month or so ago, Augie Garrido and Coach Skip Bertman spent time together with the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame LeBear's Legends of the Diamond event. And at that time, nobody knew that Augie Garrido, unfortunately, 2.5 weeks later, would succumb to a stroke. So I think, and even Coach Bertman, we talked about it. That jarred him from a standpoint of, hey, don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for the future. Don't call your loved one and tell them you love them. Next week. Do it now.
Yeah. Live everything in the present right now. Because you're not guaranteed tomorrow. And I think that's what this is about. A lot of the players, Skip changed their lives, and LSU baseball changed their lives. It changed my life. Changed your life. And I think a chance for everybody to get together one time and really just celebrate the success and meet the new players and just get that bond back. I think that'll help everyone involved.
Dan CANEVARI joining us. All right, Can. So let you play a little Nostradamus here. LSU baseball. What has to happen? They've now halfway through the season, 17-11, 4-4 in the SEC. They're 28 games in. This is where Paul Mainieri traditionally his teams have gotten better. They hit April, all of a sudden things change for them. What's got to go down?
Don't forget all LSU teams.
Yeah.
Skip Bertman's teams always played well at the end of the year. It's part of the deal. Number one is the trainer Cody. He's the most valuable guy on the staff right now. You got to get the guys back. He's got to get with people have to understand with the limited roster now, it really, really affects things. Because remember when Morris went down. We went through 3 second basemen that year. We went to Trey McClure, then he got hurt. We ended up with Casey Kuntz and some other people. So the depth is just not there. You just don't have the depth on your roster, and Paul's really trying to overcome that. I think they figured out their pitching, and the pitching's getting better and better each week. I think that's a good thing if they can stay healthy and just continue to improve. Alan Dunn doing a great job. I mean, Paul's mixing and matching and trying to motivate guys and get people going. I just think we got to be patient. When they get everybody back and get a full lineup, I think they're going to make a heck of a run at the end of the year. I honestly believe that.
The story so far this season, a couple of stories, and obviously Austin Bain is a story and continues to be. It's just amazing to see him do what he's doing, and it's kind of like Little League. They get to the ninth, they turn around at second baseman and go, "Come here." give him some warm-ups, and he goes in there. But Hilliard, who you recruited when you were an assistant coach at Southern, of course, the freshman out of Central High School in Baton Rouge, he's been a great one.
He's dynamite. He's Skip and I were talking. He's almost to a point, just as a freshman, where if he doesn't want you to hit the ball, you can't hit the ball.
Mm-hmm.
He's got such command of the curveball. It's got such a good spin rate, and he's got a cutter action on his fastball. He locates well, so that makes up for his lack of velocity. But he's fearless on the mound. I mean, the kid's got tremendous poise for a freshman.
Thank you so much, Dan, for being here. I appreciate it. Dan CANEVARI with Tiger Athletic Foundation, of course, many years of service as LSU as a baseball coach and national champion. We'll come back. Hour number 2, John Brady will be here in studio. We'll talk to the Final Four championship coach. We'll get his take on LSU baseball year 1, his first year doing color on the radio broadcast, and break down the Final Fours. It'll be a good one. I don't know if it's going to be as good as the women, as we're going to have Mississippi State taking on Notre Dame, the unbelievable semifinal games, but the men will be great as well. We'll talk to John Brady. That's coming up hour number 2, Sports Shorts, right around the corner.
At Peak Performance Physical Therapy, we treat the athlete in everyone, from the three-point shooter to the three-piece suit. If your doctor prescribes physical therapy, ask for Peak Performance by name, getting you back in the game of life.
If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau St. Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase.
Attention to detail makes the world go round. At Baker Printing, our approach to the printing business is very simple. Treat it as if it were your own. That's not always an easy job, but it comes from the top down in our company. We thrive on the unique jobs. Bottom line, we take care of our customers' projects as if they were our very own. At Baker Printing, attention to detail makes our world go round.
Introducing the Mercedes-Benz family of vans, including the full-size Sprinter and the mid-size Metris. If these are your wingtips, if this is your gourmet latte, then these are your vans. Vans for professionals. Strictly professionals. Best commercial van residual value according to ALG, and starting at just $25,995. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to
Relief Window. Experience Relief Window.
When my wife and I started Relief Windows, what we were trying to do, what our goal was to give a quality job to a homeowner. Everybody's scared of contractors. We wanted to change the mold of what that is. Not showing up on time, not answering the phone, somebody running with your money. The reason why you should pick Relief Windows to do your renovation of your home, windows, doors, hardy plank, or siding, is because of the experience, quality service of our company. Service is everything we have. It's the foundation of our company. We're going to show up on time. We're going to do.
Sports Shorts Radio with Ronnie Rantz, Joel Davis, and Buzzy Heidel on 104.5, 104.9 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Welcome, everybody, to Sports Shorts, hour number 2. I want to thank Dan CANEVARI, who joined us hour number 1 here in the LeBears of Baton Rouge presents in the Mercedes-Benz studio. We've got to make sure we get that right. Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, LeBears Casino in Baton Rouge presents Sports Shorts. 2 hours each and every morning, 10 to noon on Saturday mornings. And, of course, we replay on Pelican Broadcasting in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and Lafayette on Cox Cable Channel 1013, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday nights. So you never get tired of us. 8:30 on those nights. Check it out on Pelican. That way you can see our pretty faces. Ronnie Rantz, John Brady here with us. I'm one of the few guests that I'll have more hair than on this show. Coach Brady, how are you now?
I'm doing good. You hadn't had 40 years of coaching either.
Well, that's true. That's true. No, I am jealous of Gordy. I am looking into having a transplant, but yeah, you get a pass, Coach, for
that's terrible.
Having to coach some of the characters you coached, and will remain nameless, but I know some of them. I wouldn't have any hair either. So,
well, it brought me to this spot, sitting here with you. It was all worth it.
It was all worth it. There you go. Well, thank you for the kind words.
You're welcome.
Well, just first off, let me ask you, how was year number 1 doing radio? Did you enjoy it?
I had a great time. LSU couldn't have been more kind to me. Chris Blair was great to work with. Kent Lowe obviously is always great to work with. Right. He gives us up-to-date information about what's going on. So it was fun. It was good to see people I hadn't seen in a while, and everybody's receptive, and I'm looking forward to doing it again if they'll have me back.
So did you have any history with Will Wade prior to LSU? Did you ever know who he was even, really?
Didn't know him. Knew of him, because of his success in the recent years, but I never met him, never knew him, and when he got the job, I called him and congratulated him and all that, and he knew who I was, I suppose, and so I came up and had lunch with him a couple of times, and he knew I wanted to do the radio, and after we got to know each other a little bit, he kind of went up to see Ward White and said, I'd like to have John Brady do the radio, which was really kind of him because it's his program.
Right.
He controls all of that, and he does a great job of controlling that, for a guy 35 years old, he's kind of way ahead of that. I couldn't have done it at 45. Some people say I couldn't did it at 42. but he's done a great job, and I'm appreciative of Will allowing me to do the radio. It's been fun.
What were you, now that you've kind of gotten to know him over the last year, what is it that he does so well, in your opinion?
First of all, I think he's very smart. He sees things before they happen, and I think anytime you have a feel for – some guys never get that, and he's very intelligent. He's very confident about what he wants to do and how he wants to do it at a young age. I look back, because I'm old enough to be his dad sometimes. That's a creepy feeling for me. But for a guy 35 to be as smart as he is, as confident as he is, be able to handle players. And I think the thing that I've observed over the overall picture of what he did this year, he was very consistent in how he applied his discipline, how he applied his compliments. And I think anytime players see consistency in the coach holding him to a standard, you have a parameter of discipline. I think it breeds confidence in the team once they know that is established in a fair and appropriate way, and that's what he's done.
The how LSU finished, they made it to the second round of the NIT. They had some big wins, obviously. I mean, Michigan now looking like the biggest. Texas A&M twice. Those. So they had some success. Better than expected. I mean, when you knew what the roster looked like and a first-year coach and all that, you had in your mind some sort of expectation. Did they surpass it?
Yeah, in my mind they did. And here's the thing about expectations. It's really funny. Before the year, every sports writer that covers the SEC picked LSU dead last.
Right.
There was some argument where they'd win 2 or 4 games in the league, based on what they had coming back. Then all of a sudden we get into the league play. We beat Arkansas a couple of times, beat A&M, And then all of a sudden we lose to Alabama on the road, and everybody said, "What's wrong with the team? We're disappointed." But
Right.
you have to think back.
Right.
There were no expectation. So the team, by the way it played and by the way it conducted itself, created expectations during the course of the year. So that alone is a successful year, having people become disappointed again. Because last year they weren't disappointed, but this year when the team did so well, they created that expectation level, and I think that's a success in its own way. So it's funny how people change. And I told people, let's look at the big picture here of what's happening. Y'all are complimenting yourselves and complimenting this team by being disappointed now. And here's what I told Will Wade, Ronnie, and you know, being from around here and being part of LSU, you know, I told Will Wade after he beat ULL at home and all the circus that went around that game and how he came out of it, he elevated himself.
Right.
I said, they have just forgot that we swept Arkansas twice, beat them 20 in Fayetteville. This game, what you did tonight, surpassed all of that. I think people will remember beating ULL here in the Pete Maravich Assembly Center more than LSU beating Arkansas 20 on the road in Fayetteville, if that makes sense.
No, it does, and of course it took on legendary proportion with the whole post game, the pregame, the comments by the Raging Cajun coach, and then the post game comments by both of them. No question, looked like Will Wade was walking around with a puffed out chest the following week, getting high fives from LSU fans all over Louisiana.
Well, he did it in the right way. He was kind of subtle with it. He was prepared, but when he went into that press conference after the ULL game, he was banking on winning that game because his notes wouldn't have played too well had he lost.
He had all the
game.
Stats and numbers ready to go.
So he was prepared to do that. And that's what I like about him. He's smart. He's intelligent. He gets it. And he's got good players coming in with what he's done this year and what he's got coming in. I just hope the expectation level doesn't become too high in a short period of time.
Well, you know that rivalry. You spent some time over in that neck of the woods, over at Crowley High School, and
where it started.
And so the love-hate relationship. People have this impression that over in Southwest Louisiana there's all these Raging Cajun fans, and there are more LSU fans than there are Raging Cajun fans. But this, is this a rivalry in your opinion? I don't have any expectation that Will Wade and that LSU and UL are going to sign this long-term contract to play basketball.
Right.
But but it would be great. It would be great if they did.
Well, when I was here, Coach Berkman, he encouraged us to play in-state schools. That was one of the things he wanted us to do.
And he himself did that,
he started
with baseball.
Yeah, he started the thing. And so, I just kind of followed his lead and what he suggested we do. And, I was the guy, I played Tulane for the first time in 30-something years. I played ULL for the first time in 40 years. I brought that thing back based on Coach Berkman's encouragement of doing that.
Right.
We had a tournament here during Thanksgiving one time where I had Louisiana Tech, ULL, Tulane, and us in a weekend tournament sandwiched around an LSU football game. We played on a Friday and a Sunday in between an LSU football game on Saturday, and that was good. But now the tendency is outside of baseball to not play the in-state schools, and I think it goes in a circle. But what that rivalry demonstrated in that NIT game at home, there's something there to capitalize on. Now, the timing of it, and I agree with Will Wade, whatever he decides to do is going to be in the benefit of LSU.
Right.
And I agree with that. That he's in charge of this program. That's what he's supposed to do. I told ULL when we started that we'll play, but you're coming to Baton Rouge. I'm not even entertaining coming to Lafayette. And Jesse Evans at the time did it. And so and we were able to beat him 3 or 4 times. But I think Will Wade is smart about how he approached it. I think he came out in good shape after all of that, and I think whatever he chooses to do, LSU fans will support him.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. I do hope that it's not that it takes an NCAA fluke or an NIT fluke for these teams to match up again. I do hope that when cooler heads prevail or calmer heads prevail, that they do put something in place, because anytime they play in any sport, it's exciting. We see that in baseball. We see it occasionally from time on football, and in basketball, this was special.
Let me inject something on that, though. But there's a difference in baseball's approach to scheduling and basketball. Baseball can lose to Southeastern or UNO or ULL or UL, whatever.
And not affect their national standing.
They're okay.
Yeah. Right.
And LSU fans seem to have come to the point where they kind of accept that.
Right.
If you're the head basketball coach at LSU and before Christmas, if you lose to Southeastern, UNO, or Lafayette,
right,
you'll be gone by the new year. So
right.
it's kind of a different approach to scheduling and what the fans accept.
Right, exactly. John Brady joining us. It's Final Four weekend. The women, of course, had played some amazing semifinals. The men, Villanova, Kansas, Michigan, and Loyola Chicago are going to go at it this weekend. Of course, John Brady knows all about the Final Four, took the Tigers to that land. And in 2006, been 12 years. It's amazing, huh? Time flies.
Man. Don't remind me.
Yeah.
you say I know a lot about the Final Four. I knew more about the regional final in Atlanta when we beat Duke in Texas.
Right.
Once I got to the Final Four, I didn't do too well.
Well, after your time at LSU, you spent some time in Jonesboro, Arkansas as a head basketball coach in Arkansas State. And I do have an LSU Jonesboro, Arkansas story back in 1992 or 3. 1993. Skip Bertman took LSU baseball up to Jonesboro, Arkansas to play Coach Bethay's Arkansas Red Wolves team back then. Coach Bethay was a longtime assistant in Texas. His son had played shortstop for Coach Bertman in 1990 here at LSU. So as a favor to him, they were building a new stadium or something, a new ballpark. So he went up there to play a couple of weekend series. Well, 1993, we go up there. It's freezing cold. It's like our spring break week. We go up there. The team is so bitter that we're in Jonesboro, Arkansas, because the year before we're in Orlando. The year before that we're in Vegas. So then we go to Jonesboro, Arkansas. We're like, what is going on here?
At that time, they only had a Holiday Inn. That was probably it.
It was unbelievable. But I do remember this was the highlight of our trip. I think we got rained out one game. They didn't have the fence completely built. They had orange hurricane fence in the outfield. Like it was kind of rats, you know what. And we go up there, and the team's on the bus, and we're going to go to some pizza place or some place to eat. And we drive by, and we pass a Waffle House. And on the Waffle House window, they had a giant sign that said, "All you can eat Waffle House, $5.99." I immediately yelled to the bus driver to stop the bus. Todd Walker, myself, Mike Neal, Harry Barrios, we all got off the bus, walked into the Waffle House. The team went on without us. We said, we'll get somebody to pick us up later. And we sat there for 2 hours and had all-you-can-eat Waffle House at the Jonesboro, Arkansas Waffle House. Greatest meal of my life. And I've never found an all-you-can-eat Waffle House ever since. And I'm sure they don't run that promotion anymore because we ended it for them. But, Coach, that is all I have to go on when I think about Jonesboro, Arkansas.
That Waffle House is still there, actually, right off the interstate. It's still there.
Do we have anything? We get some good friends, memories, anything from your time up there in Arkansas State? Or
well, most places
How many years were you there?
I was there 8 years.
8 years, yeah,
when I left
time.
here, I took the job really early. I probably should have set out of here like most of these guys do, sit out of here and they get better jobs or at least as good a jobs as they've had.
Right.
But I really didn't have any guidance about what to do. But I liked it there. We had a good facility. We redid the locker room. They put together a practice facility for me, and I had a good 8 years there. It was a lot of fun, and it was different. I did learn that the rice capital of America is not Crowley, Louisiana.
Oh, really?
It's really Jonesboro, Arkansas, and that surrounding area. They produce more rice up there than anywhere in the United States, although South Louisiana claims that.
Right.
But I found that was different. They brought that to my attention when I moved there, too. But I lived in the nicest house I've ever lived in on the golf course. Met some good friends. I just got back from a buddy of mine in Jonesboro. We just went to Indian Wells and played a week of golf out there. He rents a house out there. So, the relationships and the friendships I've created there will last me, and that's really the main thing about it.
Mm-hmm. Was that about 8 hour drive from here?
Yeah, about that.
About 8 hours.
Yeah.
And not a fun
7.5 years. That's right.
John Brady, our guest here on Sports Shorts. We want to thank him for being here in studio. We'll take a time out. When we come back, when we come back next segment, we'll get into the Final Four. One of the more surprising Final Four teams of all time, Loyola Chicago. I'm all in, Coach. I'm on the train. I'm on the Loyola Chicago bandwagon. I'm just looking for that 2XLT tall polo that I can wear. I'm all about sister and the whole deal. So we'll be back. We'll talk some Final Four. Michigan, Loyola Chicago, Kansas, Villanova. Sports Shorts right after this.
At Peak Performance Physical Therapy, we treat the athlete in everyone, from the Grand Slam hitter to grandparents. If your doctor prescribes physical therapy, ask for Peak Performance by name, getting you back in the game of life.
Does the new year mean new windows, hardy plank, or vinyl siding? Then you need to call Relief Windows for award-winning customer service and years of experience. Looking for quality replacement windows with lifetime warranties? Trust Relief Windows. Call us or come walk through our showroom and get a free consultation with one of our many window experts. Relief Windows is a proud partner of LSU Athletics. Come see us today or call 288-8138. 288-8138.
Introducing the Mercedes-Benz family of vans, including the full-size Sprinter and the mid-size Metris. If these are your wingtips, if this is your gourmet latte, then these are your vans. Vans for professionals. Strictly professionals. Best commercial van residual value according to ALG, and starting at just $25,995. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to...
Attention to detail makes the world go round. At Baker Printing, our approach to the printing business is very simple. Treat it as if it were your own. That's not always an easy job, but it comes from the top down in our company. We thrive on the unique jobs. Bottom line, we take care of our customers' projects as if they were our very own. At Baker Printing, attention to detail makes our world go round.
At Peak Performance Physical Therapy, we treat the athlete in everyone, from the blue chip athlete to blue collar worker. If your doctor prescribes physical therapy, ask for Peak Performance by...
Sports Shorts Radio with Ronnie Rantz, Joel Davis, and Buzzy Heidel on 104.5, 104.9 ESPN Baton Rouge.
John Brady joining us here in the Sports Shorts. Hour number 2, we're brought to you by LeBear's Casino in Baton Rouge. Final Four a week. Are you a coach? You know, some coaches go to every single one because it's almost like a conference, right? You run into a maybe. I mean, what was your philosophy? Did you attend the Final Four when you were coaching every week, every year?
Yeah, I did up until the last couple of years of coaching. I didn't do it. But I used to go all the time, look forward to it. It's a chance to see people you hadn't seen in a while, and everybody goes to the same places. I used to put together a dinner when I was at LSU. I used to put together a dinner with 4 or 5 of my coaching buddies, and we'd all get together, whether it was Tim Floyd or Larry Eustace or Kermit Davis or some of these guys that I'm really good friends with that I worked with in the past. And we'd all go to dinner and things like that. And that's what I used it for. You do a few interviews out there when they find out you're there or something. So it was fun. I never went to the games, though.
Really?
Yeah, I'll just get a group of pals, and we'd go either to the local sports bar or we'd go up in a room with a suite or something and watch the games there. And because you go to the game, people want to talk to you. Your seats are good, but not great sometimes. And I just get a more relaxed for a weekend. You can't recruit during that weekend. So instead of going to the games and doing all that hustle and bustle. And the other thing that I haven't been to recently is they have a Final Four coaches club. Every year when you go to the Final Four, they present you with a Final Four coaching jacket.
Oh, cool.
And the winner has silver gold buttons, and the guys who don't win it have silver buttons, but it has Final Four on the inside with your name on it. And every year they have a luncheon there for the former coaches, the coaches that are still living in the final. Kind of like the Masters. They have that dinner for former champions, and I went a couple times with Coach Brown, and I haven't been lately, but I was thinking about that today driving up here. I'd like to get Coach Brown and Richard Williams and myself to go to that, before too long.
Right.
Right. And just do that one and enjoy that and see some of the old coaches, because they put your picture up and they show little flashes of all the coaches that are there, and it's a pretty cool deal.
You mentioned Kermit Davis. You got to be excited for him getting that Ole Miss job.
I am. I like to see my friends and former assistants do well, and Butch Pierre's been successful. John Treelor manages the Atlanta Hawks in terms of player personnel director. Donnie Tyndall was a great basketball coach. He just got in a little trouble at Tennessee. He's a good friend, and Kermit's done really well. But I want to say one thing about that. I'm for Kermit Davis getting that job because he worked for me, and I was a GA for his father when his dad was the basketball coach at Mississippi State. Joe Dean Jr. and I were GAs together, and that's how all that relationship started years ago. But let me tell you this. I'm for Kermit to do well, but when they play the Tigers, forget it. I'm on the other side, and he knows that, and he won't even cross that bridge with me to ask me about the LSU team, and I certainly won't address it if he ever does.
Has that ship sailed for you to coach again, or or would you do it if somebody said if somebody said come on my bench and be my guy?
Well, the association of Kermit and I, people assumed that I would do that, and there'd been some talk about that, but I really don't want to do that. Ron, here's honestly how I feel about that. Any legacy I leave is not my time at Samford University or Arkansas State. Any legacy I have is here in Louisiana, Baton Rouge, LSU. And they've been kind enough to let me come back here and kind of come full circle here, and that's what I want to do. I like living in New Orleans. I'm really appreciative doing the radio. It's kind of got my name circulated back out, and they know I care about LSU. And when I talk about LSU on the radio, I say we and us and what we need to do to win this game. And I asked Ward White if that was okay, and he said it was fine. He said that's why we wanted you back here, John, to get your personality. Then he hesitated a minute. He said, well, not maybe all your personality.
Not the 05 personality.
He said, but that part we kind of like. I said, well, good. I just want to make sure if that was okay. So this is where I want to be. It's where I want to live. And so I'm going to stay here and help LSU any way I can. If the radio's part of it with Will Wade's program, I'm glad to do it.
John Brady joining us. All right, Final Four, Coach. One side of the bracket is kind of chalk. We've got Villanova and Kansas. No real surprise. 2 number 1 seeds. Perennial powerhouse programs. Villanova's kind of really come on the last 4 or 5 years and been in that upper echelon. Kansas never left. On the other side, if you're an LSU fan like I am, and I'm pulling for Michigan, right? I mean, LSU beat Michigan,
unbelievable.
So I want them to win a national championship so that Tiger fans can say, "Hey, we beat them." If they do lose, I'm a Catholic. I went to Catholic high school. I'm going to go to church tomorrow morning. I didn't eat meat yesterday. Loyola Chicago. I'm all in. This is an unbelievable story. I mean, they're an 11 seed, and we know LSU was an 11 seed when Coach Brown went to the Final Four in '86. But
unbelievable.
But they feel like they're not an 11. They feel like they're a 12, 13, or 14 seed.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Loyola Chicago responds after this week of all the publicity and all the distractions that could have entered this team, and see how many, as we talked about off the air, see how many quality practices they were really able to do. This young lady right here, she's probably gotten more attention than the team, and that's a good thing. I think it's been a great story. Now, I don't believe that they're going to be able to beat the Michigan team, but certainly with what they've happened, I like seeing mid-majors do well. When we were in the Final Four in '06, George Mason came from the other side, and they did well, and they got in there too. So I think it's good for college basketball to have that from time to time.
Yeah, the story of Loyola Chicago is a fantastic one, and you're right. I mean, look, 2 years ago, Coastal Carolina won the College World Series in baseball, and they're in the Sun Belt Conference now. And so that gives all those programs, all those mid-major programs, all those Loyola Chicago believers, including Sister here on our screen, if you're watching on television, 96 years old or whatever she is, been there for all of her life basically as a staff member and a student. It's a great story. This is United Chicago, and nobody's talking about DePaul, nobody's talking about Illinois. They're all talking about Loyola Chicago, and this is a great matchup now because Michigan and Loyola Chicago got 2 fan bases real close to each other. It's a regional matchup, so it's got some great storylines behind it. And look, every time I see Loyola Chicago, Coach, they even have the colors of the Hoosiers, from the movie. They even got the similar. I keep waiting for the picket fence play, and then the coach with the little leather binder, hitting his hand. I'm waiting for the picket fence. I mean, where is he?
The picket fence. I love it. Well, they may run some picket fences. They're gonna have to shoot a bunch of balls, I think, from the 3-point line to beat this team. But I don't think Loyola's got enough in the tank now to beat a well-coached, experienced coach like Jim Boeheim. He's outstanding. I like their team. They've played their way into the tournament because when we beat them in Hawaii and Maui, they didn't look like a Final Four team. But certainly what they've done over the course of the year, I think the last 10 or 11 games, nobody's come within double-digit points of them. So they're really playing well right now. on both ends of the floor.
So you like you like Michigan on that side of the bracket to knock off Loyola Chicago, Villanova, Kansas. I mean, that's a tough one. Who do you think?
Well, I've always liked Bill Self. I like the way he coaches. His team's always tough and hard. They compete. They rebounded on both ends of the floor. They run good offense. Jay Wright's an outstanding coach. Villanova's always been perimeter oriented. And all three of these teams actually are more perimeter oriented. Loyola Chicago is probably the least perimeter oriented team, but I'll give you a stat here. From the three-point line, Villanova has shot almost 1,100 threes. Michigan has shot over 960. Kansas has shot over 950 threes. In all other these categories, they're well coached. They all shoot around 50% from the floor. They all shoot around 40% from the three. None of them are overpowering rebounding teams. So here's just a stat to follow. I think in this Final Four thing, the team that shoots it better from the three or makes more threes is the team I think is going to come out on top in this thing.
Yeah, not bad. And look, the other thing about Kansas that I liked, and I pointed this out, and this reason I thought they would beat Duke was they're, I think, the number one offense in the country in half-court efficiency. And, as you know, 3 beats 2, and then when you can run that half-court, set against a very good defensive team like Villanova, and you got a Hall of Fame coach, you just figure out there's a good chance they're going to figure out a way to win that game.
Well, if I had to do it all over again, this is what I would do. I was always a guy that loved defending and rebounding, and I could get a team to do that. I would recruit shooters now.
Right.
I'd recruit 5 or 6 shooters that can make baskets or manufacture baskets for somebody else, whatever the case may be. And then once I get them, I would make them tougher, more competitive, get them to think defensively and in rebounding the ball. Because these teams are perimeter oriented. Villanova, Brunson, and Bridges are 2 great guards. Graham and Newman for Kansas are great guards. Wagner and Matthews. Wagner's a 6'8" German guy, but he's really a hybrid forward.
Way,
he's a step-out guy. And then Loyola's led by Custer and Ingram 2 guards. And all of these guys, 60% of their offense in these teams are from the perimeter.
Right.
So I'd recruit me some shooters, make them tough and hard, and then go play it. Because if you can shoot it, you can make baskets when the offense doesn't work quite as well. And as long as you can defend, and Villanova does that, Kansas does that, that's why I think the national championship game is going to be in that semifinal game tonight.
When we excuse me, when we come back here in just a minute, I want to talk about a guy who LSU did recruit, and that's Tremont Waters. And it seemed like every coach that's come through LSU, when there's been a down year, it's because they didn't have a point guard. Number one. You got to have somebody take care of the basketball, make good decisions, not turn the ball over, maybe even play a little defense from time to time and get some steals. And it always seemed like
he got better at that.
Yeah,
he wasn't good at
it wasn't at first, but he could at least score at first, and then he got better as the season went on. The other thing, but it always seemed like And look, I go back to, and I love me some TJ Pugh, but I go back to the TJ Pugh days when I was at LSU, and TJ Pugh did the best he could. But it's always about having that smart defensive minded guy who can make smart decisions with the basketball, or nowadays light it up from 3. When we come back, we'll talk a little Tremont Waters. We'll show you some highlights of his fantastic season, and at the end, we'll get a final prediction from John Brady on the Final Four and who he thinks is going to win. We'll be back. Sports Shorts right after this.
Discover a place where legends are made, where ordinary checks itself at the door, and unforgettable experiences are around every corner. Discover L'Auberge Baton Rouge. Unique dining, the hottest games, and the coolest rooftop pool around. Make your moment legendary at L'Auberge Baton Rouge. Exit at Bluebonnet off I-10. See My Choice Center for details. Must be 21 Winter Casino. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
Do you have sleep apnea? Are you tired of dragging your big, bulky CPAP device with you whenever you leave home? Yeah, well, I was too. That's why I'm so glad I called to try the Transcend Mini CPAP for 10 nights. I can't imagine living without it now. My Transcend is about as small as a soda can and weighs less than a pound. That's less hassle to carry than my shaving kit. Plus, I was able to add a battery pack.
Attention to detail makes the world go round. At Baker Printing, our approach to the printing business is very simple. Treat it as if it were your own. That's not always an easy job. that it comes from the top down in our company. We thrive on the unique jobs. Bottom line, we take care of our customers' projects as if they were our very own. At Baker Printing, attention to detail makes our world go round.
Introducing the Mercedes-Benz family of vans, including the full-size Sprinter and the mid-size Metris. If these are your wingtips, if this is your gourmet latte, then these are your vans. Vans for professionals. Strictly professionals. Best commercial van residual value according to ALG, and starting at just $25,995. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to...
Relief window. Experience Relief window.
When my wife and I started Relief Windows, what we were trying to do, what our goal was, to give a quality job to a homeowner. Everybody's scared of contractors. We wanted to change the mold of what that is. Not showing up on time, not answering the phone, somebody running with your money. The reason why you should pick Relief Windows to do your renovation of your home, windows, doors, hardy plank, or siding, is because of the experience, quality service of our company. Service is everything we have. It's the foundation of our company. We're going to show up on time. We're going to do the job right. Over 60% of our customers is customer referral. We're a local company here in Baton Rouge, built in Baton Rouge, staying in Baton Rouge. The job's not done until you're happy and we're happy. It's built the old-fashioned way, with a handshake. Here at Relief Windows is honored to be official window, door, and siding company of LSU Athletics, from one winning team to another.
Sports Shorts Radio with Ronnie Rantz, Joel Davis, and Buzzy Heidel on 104.5, 104.9 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, welcome back, everybody. John Brady going to be with us for the last half hour of Sports Shorts TV and radio. I want to thank Coach for being here with us in the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. Final Four weekend. Number of years at LSU. Who knew, Coach, back in the day that two knuckleheads down at the end of the bench, Jack Warner and Brandon Landry, would end up doing what they were doing. Do you remember the first time they came to you and told you about their walk-ons idea for the restaurant?
Well, no, I think they were creating that, I think, when they played for me. They had it in the back of their minds of what they wanted to do, and most people thought when they built the first one on that piece of property there that they were out of their minds and didn't never make it. And you got to admire guys like that now. And I used to call them walk-ons all the time, and they still hadn't included me in anything, though. But other than that, I'm glad they were able to meet and do that together. I got acquainted with Brandon Landry through Jonathan Pixley when Pixley played for me over at Sanford, and that's how I was aware of Brandon, because Pixley said he was a good player and all, and introduced me to him then. And then Jack had walked on for Dale for maybe a year or two, and then when I came on, we let Jack play because we some of my time, we were down there, had no numbers because of the scholarship limitations. I put Jack on scholarship his last year, and he actually played, some significant minutes for us. So, but what a story, those two guys meeting as walk-ons on the LSU team and developed some, this partnership, and have been tremendously successful with what they've done. You got to give it to them. It's
a great story, and I remember back in the day when they opened the first location, joking with Brandon or Jack and saying, I think it was Doug Thompson and I and a couple of baseball big mouths that were like, we're going to open up Starters right across the street and serve steak. We're going to have a steak restaurant, a high-end steak restaurant called Starters right across the street. But anyway, no, they didn't. Of course, then they brought in Drew Brees, and so I don't know. The name doesn't necessarily fit anymore. I mean, Drew's wasn't ever a walk-on, but it's a great story, and they're killing it. I'm happy for those guys. Visiting with John Brady, one of the guys who killed it this year was Tremont Waters, and what a great kind of a signing that kind of went under the radar because LSU fans were kind of disgusted with how the program went last year. Hire Will Wade, the VCU coach, figure it's going to be a 2-3 year process to get recruits and to get this thing turned around. So there wasn't a lot of emphasis or really people really watching the wire to see who they signed this year, figure they weren't going to get that many great players.
Right.
And then Tremont Waters ends up coming to LSU, and I mean, he reminded folks of a young Chris Jackson at times.
Well, when he came on board, I watched him practice a few times. He didn't just stand out like this guy's going to be phenomenal. I think, and I've said this to many people, I think playing for Will Wade helped him. And I think Will Wade had the vision and the understanding and the patience to allow this guy to develop as he played. The comparison of on my frame of reference, probably if this young man would have came and played for me, I'd have probably tried to put him in a box and wrap him time in a bow, and he'd have probably left me at Christmas because I was too restricted. But Will Wade has allowed him to play, allowed him to take questionable shots at times, but at the same time, at the end of the day, it paid dividends for Will Wade and his team by the way he handled him.
What is it about Tremont Waters that makes him such a good player?
I think not only is he a very good scorer, he can score the ball, but I think equally as well or better, he can pass the ball extremely well. His vision of the court is unbelievable. The Maui game when he made that steal at half court and threw it behind his head for a layup for our guys to score on was a tremendous play. But he sees the floor. He anticipates what's going on. He not only creates plays for himself, but he creates plays for other players, which a good point guard can do. And I think he's tough. He got better defensively, understood it better, and appreciated defending. He knew what it could do for him on the other end of the floor, and also keep his minutes on the floor because Will Wade's a defensive-minded guy, and his team's going to get better in that regard. But not only did he improve on the offensive end, he got better on the defensive end, and I think that's because of the encouragement and the coaching and the teaching of Will Wade and the staff.
The coming out party was what he did against Michigan at the 21 points, but about half of them were highlight acrobatic plays. And, of course, LSU wins the Maui Invitational when, Michigan was ranked. They were 3-0. LSU didn't have any anticipation. Nobody thought they would win. They go over there with this young freshman, and he pretty much at the end took over.
Well, a tremendous player. And Will Wade, and like I said before, I believe in this, Will Wade allowed him to play and allowed him to develop. Some coaches, me in particular, I don't know if I'd have had that kind of patience, that kind of vision to let this guy grow and play. But I think what Will Wade understood was he's the best I got. Where am I going if I don't play him? I might as well live or die with this young man, let him grow, let him get better. He's really a fine young man. He's receptive to coaching and teaching, and I think that's one of the reasons we'll let him play through some mistakes, and at the end of the day, the benefits of him playing 35, 36 minutes a game and what people see him coming back next year with his experience, plus who he's got coming in, I think exciting things are about to happen here, and I think the fans are understanding that now.
Was Daryl Mitchell your best guy, as far as a point guard?
Taurus Bright was an excellent point guard for me. And then on that Final Four run, Garrett Temple and Daryl Mitchell played the point
switched off
collectively. I never really had a true point guard like Tremont Waters. Dale had a couple, and everybody talks about Ethan Martin. Everybody loved him.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you a guy I really liked that sometimes gets overlooked is Derek Taylor. I thought Derek Taylor was outstanding in terms of making key baskets, big baskets.
And if they'd had the three-point line, because he hit that jumper at the top of the key all day long.
And Derek was steady, could really pass the ball. And, and Dale he was blessed. And then, obviously, Chris Jackson, maybe not a point, but a combination guard that was really probably one of the most exciting players ever to play at LSU.
Yeah, no, I love me some Derek Taylor big time. I remember him more than Ethan Martin just because of my age, being 45. I watched pretty much every Derek Taylor game. Just saw a lot of Ethan Martin highlights. But Taurus Bright, talk about a fiery dude. Taurus Bright was a competitor.
Loved to play. Couldn't get him out of the gym. He liked the gym more than going to class.
Yeah, a lot of basketball players have done that. Yeah.
But I'm trying to get Taurus to come back and finish his degree, and I've checked into it for him, and they have a situation where they can pay for his degree if he chooses to come back, and he's over in Slidell, Covington living, and I'm going to try to get him back over here to finish his degree. That would be huge for him.
The 06 Final Four team, is every day somebody ask you about that team? it's
well, this time of the year, a lot of people do, and since I've been back, a lot of LSU fans remember that, and they remember the crowds that we had and the big wins that we did have, and it was just an exciting time. I tell you, Ronnie, I was away from it, then came back, And I'm so appreciative of being part of the LSU history of basketball here. You know, Dale dominated it all. You know, you had Bob Pettit and Pete Maravich, and then Dale Brown came in and dominated the landscape for 25 years. And for me to have my 11 or 12-year run in there and to be part of that, and I look up in those banners that are hung, Dale hung a few, I hung a few, and there's only one or two more that have been hung since he and I had our run here. So, you know, I'm appreciative of that and really respect that and been blessed to be able to be a part of that history of LSU basketball.
That 06 team, at what point, I mean, you know, it wasn't preseason, you guys were going to be in the Final Four. At what point did you realize during that season, you know, boy, this team's, this cohesive unit is pretty special. We got a chance here.
Well, we played number 1 Connecticut on the road up there in the Hartford Civic Center, and Jim Calhoun, and we'd beaten West Virginia when they retired Jerry West's number. It was the largest non-conference crowd in the history of West Virginia basketball, and they were good then. They were ranked, and we were able to beat them there, and I thought we were pretty good. But then we went to Connecticut a week or two later, and Darryl Mitchell had a shot in the air to beat number 1 Connecticut on the road in Hartford. And I came back saying, you know, this team here has come on. They're pretty good. And they were getting along well. They were receptive to coaching. They all grew up together, which is really another special story in itself. Then we went to Arkansas, first SEC game. We're down 8 or so at the half. We came back and outscored them like 15 or 16 the second half and won that first SEC game on the road. And coming back on that plane, I told John Treloar and Butch Pierre, I said, this team here's pretty good. It's going to take a real well-coached team that's playing well to beat us. And then we went on and won the Southeastern Conference outright that year, won the championship. Florida finished second, and Florida went on to win the national championship. So, you know, for us to win the league outright in 06, go to the Final Four, and then another SEC team went to the Final Four. Florida wound up winning it. You know, that particular group of players, 4 from Baton Rouge, 1 from St. Martinville, 1 from Denham Springs, coming off Katrina in August.
That's true.
To give, you know, the fans in Louisiana something to feel good about that spring was really a good accomplishment for these young guys.
Visiting with John Brady. What was that? Give me the starting lineup from 06. Remind me.
We had Darryl Mitchell, St. Martinville, Tasman Mitchell from Denham Springs. Then we had Big Baby here, Glenn Davis. We had Garrett Temple. And then we had Tyrus Thomas, and then we brought Darnell Lazar off the bench that played here at Woodlawn. So there were 6 Louisiana local guys playing on that Final Four team that won the Southeastern Conference championship.
I saw Tyrus the other day at a gas station right down the street. He's back here, and you know, I mean, Tyrus Thomas redshirted. I mean, you know, redshirted from McKinley High School, and then I remember going to watch you play in 2006 December. I think it was like around Christmas time. It was before conference play, and it was definitely December. You were a few games in, and I remember just being awed by Tyrus Thomas of how he came on and how high he jumped and how he dominated the games at times, you know, and it was a non-conference opponent. Don't remember who it was. Might have been an in-state team. But I just remember thinking, wow, I mean, this is unbelievable how much he's improved.
Well, my best 2 teams at LSU, we had rim protectors, Stromiles Swift.
Yeah.
He blocked 11 shots, 9 shots sometimes. And then Tyrus Thomas. Tyrus Thomas blocked 9 or 10 shots here. We played Tennessee.
They were so similar,
one night.
those guys.
Yeah, and anytime you can have a rim protector like that, it does certainly help the quality of your team. But Tyrus Thomas, a guy that played here locally at McKinley, he was 6'7" or 6'7.5", 185 pounds when we signed him. Redshirted him the first year. He went from 6'7" to 6'9", from 185 to 210, 212 in 1 year's time, and then rose to the 4th pick in the NBA draft after a redshirt season. A remarkable story of what happened to him and how he came on the national basketball scene. Particularly that game at Connecticut was his real coming out party. And then the game that he had against Duke when they were number 1 in the country, he blocked 5 or 6 shots, had 20-some-odd points, really played well when we beat Duke in Atlanta.
I know we got to go to break here in just a second, but I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't mention it's got to be a little bit sad what's going on in the news with Glenn Big Baby Davis. I mean, is it one of those situations, Coach, as a former coach, you reach out to him, or do you let that handle and you'll address it one day with him?
Well, I'll let that take care of itself for a while, but it's sad, you know. Everybody that in Baton Rouge, knew Glenn Davis, his family situation, and it really breaks your heart. It broke my heart because I'd kind of lost touch with him over the last couple of 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these guys I still talk to and stay in touch with them, but he's kind of one that kind of went out on his own a little bit, and it's really, really heartbreaking. And certainly everybody prays for Glenn and wants him to do better and are behind him here because he's an LSU Tiger, and his time here, he was phenomenal in what he brought to the program.
Right.
So certainly we all want him to do well, get better, and whatever happens with him, we want to be there to support him.
Well, beloved figure in his time here, not only at U High but at LSU, and definitely we'll be monitoring and see how things progress for him. But on the other side, you got a guy like who's on the staff, one of your former players,
Tasman Mitchell.
Yeah.
What a great hire by Will Wade.
Yeah.
That shows you how smart he is. Will was talking with everybody about, who do I need to hire, and he said he kept hearing Tasman Mitchell's name, and he interviewed Tasman and knew his love for LSU and how he could kind of be a liaison between the coaches and the players because he's still young enough to relate to them and tell them what they really need to hear. And Tasman's got the character to do that, so I think it was a great hire for Will Wade.
I talked to Tasman when he got the job, and I saw him somewhere, and he said Will Wade and reminds him a lot of some of the things that, in your better days, some of the things you did. He said the intensity, the fire, and what's important to Will Wade was the things that were important to you as a coach, and so it's a natural fit that he would relate to Will Wade. We'll take a break. Sports Shorts will continue from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio right after this.
At Peak Performance Physical Therapy, we treat the athlete in everyone, from the Grand Slam hitter to grandparents. If your doctor prescribes physical therapy, ask for Peak Performance by name, getting you back in the game of life.
Does the new year mean new windows, hardy plank, or vinyl siding? Then you need to call Relief Windows for award-winning customer service and years of experience. Looking for quality replacement windows with lifetime warranties? Trust Relief Windows. Call us or come walk through our showroom and get a free consultation with one of our many window experts. Relief Windows is a proud partner of LSU Athletics. Come see us today or call 288-8138. 288-8138.
Introducing the Mercedes-Benz family of vans, including the full-size Sprinter and the mid-size Metris. If these are your wingtips, if this is your gourmet latte, then these are your vans. Vans for professionals. Strictly professionals. Best commercial van residual value according to ALG, and starting at just $25,995. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to...
Attention to detail makes the world go round. At Baker Printing, our approach to the printing business is very simple. Treat it as if it were your own. That's not always an easy job, but it comes from the top down in our company. We thrive on the unique jobs. Bottom line, we take care of our customers' projects as if they were our very own. At Baker Printing, attention to detail makes our world go round.
At Peak Performance Physical Therapy, we treat the athlete in everyone, from the blue chip athlete to blue collar worker. If your doctor prescribes physical therapy, ask for Peak Performance by name, getting you back in the game of life.
Dedicate one to the ladies. Summertime sip, babe, need something to keep you cool.
Sports Shorts Radio with Ronnie Rantz, Joel Davis, and Buzzy Heidel on 104.5, 104.9 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, been fortunate enough to have a couple great guests here on Sports Shorts. We had Dan CANEVARI, hour number one, talking a lot of college baseball with the luckiest guy in college baseball. He's got 6 national championship rings, 5 at LSU, 1 at Miami where he was a GA in 1982. And then, of course, now he's back working in the Tiger Athletic Foundation, fundraising and raising money for the LSU baseball program and all their projects. Pretty charmed life old Cano's lived.
He's something. He's a personality.
And we'll leave it at that.
You can't help but not like him, though. You can't help but not like him. He's really too bashful for me, though. I like when he come out a little bit.
It's hard to pull it out of him, right? John Brady here joining us, talking some hoops. So we talked a little bit about, of course, the LSU basketball days when he was coach, and then Will Wade's program and everything. The Final Four, and I'm not a big women's basketball fan. I really rarely ever watch it, but I'm intrigued by Connecticut because they're so dominant. They've now surpassed UCLA's men's team under John Wooden, 11 straight Final Fours. UCLA had gone to 10 straight Final Fours in the 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever, 60s and 70s. And Gino Auriemma, I don't know what his salary is. I think it's around $2 million a year or something like that, or over $2 million a year. I mean, this guy literally doesn't have to recruit. I mean, he just picks up the mail and decides which ones he wants to get. I mean, all of them want to play for him. And they're so dominant. And so anytime they lose, it is like, stop the presses. And so for Connecticut to lose in the semifinals to Notre Dame this year and to lose in the semifinals to Mississippi State last year was shocking. But at the same time, it's good for women's college basketball.
I think it's really good for women's college basketball to see something different, to see other people have an opportunity. It gets boring after a while. Connecticut, they'll beat everybody. But I think it's good for women's basketball to have somebody different. I'm a Mississippi State graduate, got my graduate degree from Mississippi State, so I'm pulling for them, obviously. But I was – not that I wish any ill will on any coach, but I think Gino's had a run of success. I don't think
he's had enough.
Yeah, I think he's had his share. So I think it's good for women's college basketball to have somebody else win besides Connecticut.
When he's doing what he's doing, or Pat Summitt's doing what they're doing, do the men's coaches try to find out? I mean, do the men's and women's basketball coaches ever share info, cross paths? Do people take a trek to Knoxville back in the day and sit with Pat Summitt to learn X's and O's or what they're doing?
I don't have to go that far. I can sit down here with Pokey Chapman, went to 4 straight Final Fours or 3 or 4, whatever the case may be, when I was here. When I was here coaching basketball, football won 2 national championships, baseball won a couple, women's basketball went to the Final Fours all the time, and I went to one, and we were bums, so it was an exciting time for LSU sports, and Pat Henry was always competing for a national championship in track and field. So that 10 year, 11 years or so I was here was a good stretch for LSU athletics in a number of ways, and Pokey, they had it going now. That you couldn't find a better women's basketball program in America. Maybe they were up there with Connecticut, Tennessee, Baylor. So when I was here, all I had to do was go watch Pokey and then practice and figure out what they were doing and try to implement some of that into what we wanted to do.
You and I both share appreciation for Coach Skip Bertman, who was not only was a baseball coach when you were here, but then he became the AD. Right. Give me something on Coach Bertman. A million stories I know you have, but give me a conversation or a memory of him. That wasn't the day that he told you, "Hey, John, we got to make a change." Not that day. Work. Not that day.
I do remember that one. That may overshadow a lot of them, to be honest with you.
You don't have the beloved memory that some of us do.
Well, let me my thing about Skip, but he was always innovative, thinking out of the box, and that's what he did. I remember he had a fundraiser one night where we had kind of a LSU basketball night in the Mavericks Assembly Center to sell season tickets. Bob Pettit came up and spoke. It was something that had never been done before. He had people walk around the concourse because there's some people never really have done that. And then we had all our players there and introduced them. Bob Pettit had a great talk to the LSU fan base. And it was something just to bring attention to the basketball program, something that had never been done. And, I think he started something like that when he got here with the night that's just exploded into an LSU
the first
baseball
pitch banquet
night.
now,
It's been unbelievable what that's done. And he was always thinking out of the box. But let me tell you the biggest compliment about Coach Berkman with people that he has had relationships with, you, CANEVARI, these guys, he's made such an impression on people that have been around him that they emulate him.
Right.
And anytime you can get people to do that about you, I used to walk out of the locker room and I remember Glenn Davis would get up and talk to the team like he was me.
Right.
Anytime you can get that sort of thing with people that you are around is a compliment to you as a person and a personality, and I think that's what Skip has done more than anything else.
So you do appreciate Jacques Doucet's impersonations of you, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm glad somebody's doing something. It's like, I don't care what they say, just get them to say something, that kind of thing.
Just remember me.
Yeah.
John, I can't thank you enough, man, for taking the time and coming over here and joining us. We'll definitely have to do it again sometime.
Okay, I'm going with Kansas.
Going with Kansas. That's right.
Let's do that.
All right, Kansas, not a bad pick. I mean, Bill Self, as you mentioned, Hall of Fame coach. Going with Kansas to knock off Villanova. Going with Michigan to knock off Loyola Chicago, and then Kansas to win it all. Rock Chalk Jayhawk.
Let's do it.
I'm anybody, Loyola Chicago or Michigan. I'm pulling for either one. My Catholic side and my underdog Cinderella side, I keep thinking of Dale Brown holding up that slipper in '86 saying, "Cinderella, I love you," and kissing it. So I'm going for Loyola Chicago, but if Michigan would have won it, hey, the LSU Tigers knocked off the Wolverines. That'd be pretty good too.
Absolutely.
Special thanks to Dan CANEVARI, who joined us hour number 1. Don't forget Sports Shorts Radio each and every Saturday morning, 10 until noon, right here on ESPN Radio 104.5, 104.9 in Baton Rouge, and Sports Shorts TV Saturdays, Sundays, Monday nights, 8:30 on Pelican Broadcasting. That's Cox Cable Channel 1013 in Baton Rouge and Lafayette, and check your local listings down in New Orleans. Thanks to Dan and John. We'll see you next week for more Sports Shorts.